Why have the loudest brown children suddenly gone silent for months? The internet has been on fire with revelations, confessions, and unfiltered commentary straight from the heart of the sister wives universe. Gwendlyn Brown, armed with sharp wit and unflinching honesty on Patreon, has been dismantling the show's polished facade episode by episode. Her brother Paedon, never one to hold back, has been dropping bombshells across podcasts and TikTok, hinting at secrets far darker than the televised storyline ever suggested. These two were the clearest, rawest voices of a generation raised inside plural marriage, and then, almost overnight, silence. The interviews stopped, the TikTok slowed, their social media feeds went eerily quiet. What could silence the two kids most determined to expose the truth? According to growing whispers in the deepest corners of the sister wives community, this wasn't voluntary. It was enforced. Sources close to the family speaking anonymously, fearing legal consequences, insist that the silence isn't a pause, it's a gag order. The belief is that a serious legal threat, likely a cease and desist letter drafted by high-powered attorneys from TLC and pushed aggressively by Kody Brown himself, was delivered to the outspoken siblings. This wasn't a polite request to calm down. It was reportedly a multi-page ultimatum outlining severe financial and legal consequences for any further unauthorized disclosures. A declaration of war aimed at shutting down the two voices, pulling back the curtain. But this isn't just about stopping spoilers. The stakes are much higher. The children, according to these insiders, are furious. They feel betrayed not only by their father but by the network that filmed their entire childhoods for profit. And their alleged response is one that could bring down the entire Sister Wives franchise. If the threats don't stop, if TLC and Kody don't back down, the children are prepared to go nuclear. That means bypassing YouTube and Patreon and creating a professionally produced, feature-length documentary, a tell-all that would expose every secret, every manipulation, and every buried truth the network has kept hidden for over a decade. It would be the unfiltered story of the Brown family told by the people who lived it, completely out of Kody's control. To understand the magnitude of this conflict, we have to look at the new power structure that emerged once the children entered the creator economy. For years, Kody controlled the family's finances because he controlled the TLC paycheck. All money flowed through him. That meant authority, but the internet rewrote that script. Platforms like Patreon, YouTube, and TikTok gave the children direct access to a global audience desperate for the real story behind the curated version on TV. Gwendlyn recognized this immediately. Her Patreon isn't just commentary, it's first-hand truth. She pauses scenes to reveal backstage arguments, exposes inconsistencies, and corrects the revisionist history her father tries to spin on camera. She is a fact-checker of her own life. Meri and her husband Tony created a similar business model. They provide behind-the-scenes insight, timeline clarifications, and personal stories that contradict TLC's edited narrative. And these platforms aren't just hobbies, they're lucrative. Gwendlyn's Patreon alone could conservatively bring in around $40,000 a month, nearly $500,000 a year, add YouTube revenue, and she may be earning more than Kody himself. Meri's numbers are slightly lower but still significant. Together, these kids could be making well over $500,000 a year. Meanwhile, a typical Sister Wives season might pay the entire family around $560 before it's divided among Kody, Robyn, and whatever trickles down to Janelle and Meri. For the first time ever, the children have vast financial independence. They don't need Kody. In fact, they are outperforming him, and that is the heart of the conflict. Kody's authority rested on two pillars: religious patriarchy and financial control. The children have rejected the first and seized the second. Their platforms directly compete with TLC. Every subscriber Gwendlyn gains is a viewer TLC loses. Every truth she reveals erodes the show's value. She is not just speaking out, she is undermining the entire business model the family and TLC depended on. But the real terror for the network isn't commentary, it's the lost footage. For every hour that airs, hundreds of hours are cut. And the children remember everything that happened when the cameras weren't rolling or when the scenes were never allowed to air. One example is the real conflict between Kody and his sons Garrison and Gabriel. The show portrayed it as a disagreement over COVID protocols. Paedon suggests it was far more explosive. Screaming matches, verbal abuse, and possibly physical intimidation. If footage exists that shows Kody in a truly unflattering, uncontrollable state, TLC would bury it to avoid scandal. The children remember what actually happened. There's also long-standing suspicion around the family's sudden move from Las Vegas to Flagstaff. The official reasons have shifted wildly over the years. Many believe the truth is far uglier: financial disasters, overwhelming debt, and internal plans by Kody and Robyn to isolate the wives, to fracture the family on purpose, if there were footage of these private conversations or moments where Kody admitted to strategic manipulation. The sister wives narrative would collapse overnight. This is where Paedon's rumored digital dead man switch becomes the most dangerous weapon in the entire saga, according to insiders. Paedon has allegedly compiled a digital archive containing audio, recordings, texts, screenshots, emails, and possibly video that documents years of hidden conflicts and toxic behavior. And the dead man switch ensures that if something happens to him legally or otherwise, if he's silenced, this entire archive would automatically be sent to a long list of journalists and major media outlets. It's a digital time bomb pointed directly at TLC. The network, therefore, has to tread carefully. One wrong move could detonate the entire sister wives' empire. The emotional and psychological undertones of the struggle between Kody and his sons make it even more tragic. Paedon has hinted repeatedly that the tension with his father reached the point where things nearly became physical. This isn't typical family conflict, this is trauma in many ways. It mirrors a modern mythological tragedy, the son confronting the fallen king. In order to protect the family from the damage caused by his rule, Kody's reign as patriarch has resulted in emotional devastation, financial chaos, and the collapse of nearly every relationship around him. The sons, especially Garrison, Gabriel, and Paedon, have become the reluctant heroes forced to destroy the illusion of their father to save themselves and their siblings. The ultimate irony of all this is devastating. The show that was created to prove the beauty of plural marriage has now become the strongest evidence against it. The children once paraded as proof that polygamy worked are now revealing that their upbringing was emotionally competitive, financially unstable, and deeply traumatic. They speak of neglected mothers, favoritism, scarcity of affection, and constant emotional battles. Kody's attempt to prove the success of his lifestyle has backfired spectacularly. His own children are the testimonies that undermine his life's philosophy. Now everything hangs in the balance. The children have seized the narrative. They have the platforms, the audience, and possibly the evidence to expose everything. The question now is what TLC will do. Will they cancel the show to contain the damage? Quietly pull the plug to avoid the explosion lurking in Paedon's alleged digital vault? Or will they make the boldest move in reality TV history, fire Kody, and rebuild the franchise around Christine, Janelle, and the outspoken children the audience now supports? A reboot centered on the new generation, one that tells their story instead of repeating Kody. Could be a ratings goldmine. The cease and desist was not the end, it was the beginning of the final phase of this war. On one side stands Kody Brown and a network desperate to protect its reputation. On the other side stand the children armed with truth, platforms, and possibly evidence that could destroy the entire sister wives' empire. The only question that remains is who will be left standing when the dust settles. The father who built the empire, or the children now threatening to burn it down to free themselves. Gwen Brown, with her sharp wit and insider viewpoint, has been breaking down episodes on Patreon, exposing the cracks in the show's carefully edited narrative. Her brother, Paedon, has been even more direct, dropping explosive statements on podcasts and TikTok, hinting at conflicts far more serious than anything shown on TV. They became the loudest voices of a generation raised inside plural marriage, and they were not afraid to speak their truth. Then, almost overnight, everything stopped. The torrent of content slowed to a trickle. The interviews ended. Their social media platforms went eerily silent. Fans were left wondering why the two most outspoken Brown children suddenly went quiet. What happened? What could have silenced the very voices that seemed the most determined to expose what truly went on behind the scenes? The theory circulating among insiders is chilling. According to sources close to the family, speaking anonymously out of fear of legal consequences, the silence wasn't voluntary. It was enforced. The belief is that a powerful cease and desist letter drafted by high-level attorneys was issued by TLC, likely pushed forward by Kody Brown himself. This wasn't a polite request to stop talking. It was a formal legal threat outlining serious financial and legal penalties if they continued to reveal information about the family or the show. But this legal move may have backfired. Instead of backing down, the Brown children are reportedly furious. They feel betrayed not only by their father, but also by the network that filmed their entire childhoods for entertainment. And now, they are allegedly considering their own counterattack, one that could permanently fracture the Brown family and destroy the sister wives franchise. Their threat is simple: if the network and Kody don't back down, they will go nuclear. That means producing their own full-length, professionally made documentary and unfiltered tell-all that would expose every secret, every off-camera moment, and every contradiction the public never got to see. A documentary not controlled by Kody or TLC but by the children who lived it. To understand why the situation has become so explosive, you have to look at the new financial reality inside the Brown family. For years, Kody controlled the money. The TLC paycheck flowed through him and everyone else depended on his decisions. But the internet changed everything. Through Patreon, YouTube, and social platforms, Gwendlyn, McKelty, and others discovered they could earn significant income by telling their own version of events. Gwendlyn at times has had thousands of paying subscribers. Even assuming a modest average, she could easily earn tens of thousands of dollars a month, potentially more than Kody makes. From an entire season of the show, McKelty's platform, while more diplomatic, also brings in substantial income. Combined, the adult children who are monetizing their insider knowledge could be earning hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. For the first time, the financial power has shifted away from their father. The children are financially independent and in many cases, far more profitable than the show itself. Every time Gwendlyn exposes a hidden truth, she draws viewers away from TLC. Every time Paedon reveals a behind-the-scenes incident, he undermines the network's carefully constructed narrative. To Kody and the network, this isn't just rebellion, it's competition. And that brings us to the darkest theory of all, the lost footage. Fans have long suspected that TLC keeps massive archives of unaired material, hours upon hours of raw footage that never made it to television because it was too damaging, too emotional, or too revealing. The children who were present during filming know exactly what the cameras captured. The most explosive example is the real story behind Kody's fallout with his sons Garrison and Gabriel. The show painted it as a conflict over strict COVID rules. But Paedon has implied repeatedly that it was far more severe, explosive confrontations, harsh words, and a level of aggression that would have permanently changed the public's perception of Kody Brown if it had aired. If footage of those moments exists, it would be devastating. Another mystery is the real reason the Browns fled their comfortable Las Vegas cul-de-sac for the chaotic, financially ruinous Flagstaff properties. The explanations given on the show never made sense. Some believe the move was driven by financial pressure, debt, or an internal plan by Kody and Robyn to break up the plural family by separating the wives physically and emotionally. If off-camera conversations were recorded or if the children remember those discussions clearly, it would rewrite the entire narrative of the show. And then there is the most frightening rumor of all, Paedon's digital dead man switch. According to whispers within the community, Paedon has allegedly compiled a digital archive of evidence, screenshots, messages, audio recordings, and possibly video clips stored in a secure online folder. The rumor claims that if he is ever legally silenced or unable to access his accounts, the folder will automatically be released to major media outlets, YouTube channels, and journalists. It would be a scorched earth detonation of everything TLC and Kody have tried to hide. This is not just a family dispute. It is a full-scale generational rebellion. A modern war between a father who built a public empire and the children who now have the power and the platforms to destroy it. Why have the Brown family's loudest, most outspoken children suddenly fallen silent? For months, the internet was flooded with raw, unfiltered commentary from inside the sister wives universe. Gwen Brown, with her sharp mind and biting honesty on Patreon, was dismantling the carefully edited version of events the show had presented for years. Her brother Paedon, never shy, was dropping heavy allegations on TikTok and podcasts hinting at conflicts far darker than anything fans had seen on camera. These two weren't just speaking, they were exposing. And then, almost overnight, everything stopped. The flood of revelations slowed to nothing. The interviews vanished. Their social media presence went eerily quiet. What could silence the two people who seemed the most determined to speak their truth? According to insiders, this isn't voluntary. It's enforced silence, what many believe is a gag order. Sources close to the family claim that a formal cease and desist letter was issued by TLC, pushed aggressively by Kody Brown himself. And this wasn't a warning, it was a threat. A multi-page legal document outlining financial penalties, lawsuits, and severe consequences if Gwen or Paedon continued speaking publicly about anything behind the scenes. The network and Kody weren't trying to calm the noise, they were trying to crush it. But the kids, according to those same insiders, didn't take this quietly. They reportedly feel betrayed not only by their father but by the very network that filmed their childhoods and turned their lives into decades of profit. Their response, however, could destroy the entire Brown family story forever. The threat they are rumored to have delivered is terrifying. If TLC and Kody don't back down, the children will go nuclear. They will bypass YouTube, bypass Patreon, bypass social media and release their own professionally produced, feature-length documentary, a full tell-all, the unfiltered version of their lives, a narrative no longer controlled by their father or the network. And this documentary, they say, would contain everything the show edited out, everything that never aired, and everything too explosive for TLC to ever acknowledge. It wouldn't just challenge the network's version of events, it would obliterate it. To understand why this threat is powerful enough to terrify an entire television network, we have to look at the new digital economy the Brown children built. For years, Kody controlled the money. TLC paid him, he distributed the income, and with the money came absolute power. The wives and children had no financial independence, no real voice. But platforms like Patreon changed everything. Gwen and Mykelti saw an opportunity. They recognized the size of the audience, the hunger for the truth, and the fact that people would pay for access to their side of the story. Gwen's Patreon became a phenomenon. Her unfiltered reactions to old episodes weren't commentary, they were first-hand accounts of events she actually lived. She explained what TLC edited out, what really happened before and after scenes, and how the family truly functioned behind the cameras. And thousands paid to hear it. Her earnings are staggering, with several thousand patrons paying between $5 and $25 a month. Her monthly income likely exceeded $40. A figure far greater than anything Kody was earning from the show. Mykelti's numbers, while slightly smaller, still added up to an enormous income stream. Together, these kids created a parallel media empire worth hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. For the first time ever, the children earned more money than their father. And their source of income was the one thing Kody has tried to control for over a decade, the truth. This threatened the entire framework of the show. Why would viewers wait for a sanitized, edited version of events on TLC when they could get the real story instantly from Gwen or Mykelti? Every Patreon subscriber is money the network doesn't get. Every behind-the-scenes revelation damages the value of the show. TLC wasn't just losing control of their narrative, they were losing their brand. And Kody wasn't just losing authority, he was losing power, money, and relevance. The cease and desist letter wasn't about spoilers. It was about stopping a financial collapse. But this is where things get darker. The network isn't scared of reaction videos. The real fear, the thing pushing them to